morning, Carlie. Hi, how
Good
are
morning.
you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Actually, sorry, good evening for you and good morning for
Yes.
me. We
Yes.
have this time difference and this amazing opportunity to catch up finally for the first time on video. I'm so happy.
I know. I'm
So,
happy too.
thanks very much for this coffee pause. So we take this chance to talk about life because okay, first of all, I'd like to introduce to the audience Carlie Victor. She is an entrepreneur and a scientist, very important, who discovered the spirituality and its law, the law of spirituality. And as I understood from quite a long time, yeah, you start to practice it on a daily level, and then you start to manifest a lot of things. Um, since the time you question about the purpose of life, and you are very open to answer. That's why you're gonna be my guest today for 1 hour. And thanks for your time. What we want to approach today is a topic which is very common in our society. It's actually the relationship and unconditional love that everyone talk about. What is this exactly? Which will approach through the self-love topic. I would like to welcome you here on the first episode of Kimmy and Carlie Coffee Pause. I'm gonna, yeah, maybe you can introduce just in a very short sentence about yourself so that the audience can know a little bit, get to know a little bit you.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, I'm Carlie. I'm so excited to be here and to be doing this with you. And it's crazy because as we were talking about like how I discovered the spiritual laws, this is actually one of those things that I wanted to be a part of, to be able to talk about spirituality. And I love how I'm in New York and you're in Hong Kong right now, and it doesn't even matter. So like this is just like a beautiful example that we truly do manifest. So that's what I wanted to say first and foremost. And like you mentioned, I'm a scientist, but I'm also into all things spiritual. And I have YouTube channel, podcasts. I love reading books, and I'm developing an app for the spiritual community. So for me,
Amazing.
it was very important to be able to tie into my scientific life as well as my spiritual life. So yes,
Yeah,
I'm so happy to
great.
be here to talk to you about all these things.
Thanks, Gary, for the introduction. Um, so I know that. First of all, congratulations with your manifestation, your
Thank
future
you.
spouse boyfriend that we can develop in another episode, of course, about manifestation. Very important topic. But today, let's focus back on the relationship because I have been like talking so much about this topic with a lot of friends, people around, and I see that it's very common nowadays. You know, in this society, we are run by time, materialistic, and things. We don't take time anymore, you know, to look at our relationship. Of course, we are either in a relationship with ourselves, or within a couple, or with our parents. Doesn't matter which relationship, but
Mhm.
there is kind of discrepancy about the understanding of how it is to approach or to keep a very healthy relationship. So let's put the relationship with couple or with 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 people, right? So according to you, Carlie, what would you say? What are the main criteria for building a strong relationship in a couple? Um, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so the crazy thing is everyone gets into relationships and they think it's always about the other person and what you want out of the other person, how you want the other person to be. But what I've realized on my manifestation journey, whether you're manifesting a relationship, money, whatever it is, the first relationship has to start with yourself. What is the relationship that you have with yourself, and how do you perceive yourself when it comes to relationships? So, for example, you can try to manifest the most incredible person, you script, you do all the visualization, you write all of these amazing attributes about this person that you want to be in a relationship with. But if you are someone who has this belief or this thought that people take advantage of you, or that love is hard, or there's no good women or men left in the world, that's actually what you are going to perceive. So it could sound a little convoluted, but everything in your reality is a manifestation based off of what you have going on internally. So you can manifest someone who could be the potential most amazing partner ever. But if you have those negative or limiting beliefs about yourself, you would manifest them when they're not ready, or you would just manifest someone who's not compatible to whatever it is that you're scripting. For example, even though you've decided that. So yes, the very first thing is to establish within yourself, like, how do you feel about yourself? Do you love and appreciate and value yourself? Are you
self-love?
Yes, self-love and self-concept, which is just how you perceive yourself in the world and how you think other people perceive you. Those are the two most important things when it comes to establishing a stable relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, Carlie, I approached this topic many times with a lot of people, and this is true that most of them would say, well, is it self-love? I love myself, so selfish. And it's not really possible to love yourself. Yeah, you have to practice, as you said, self-concept. We can talk about this later on. But I think it's a big ego here. People are not able, to really think, I should see what is my relationship with myself. I have to love myself. No, it's not possible. They would say, no, it's selfish. So what would you say to that situation?
Yeah, that's something that I also had to learn on my journey, because I thought the same thing too, because it's like, when you think about it, you go into a relationship with someone to share yourself with them, to love and appreciate and value them. So sometimes it sounds like not the right thing to be focusing on yourself, because you're supposed to be sharing that love with someone else. But what I realized, and it's the paradox of the whole situation, is if you don't love yourself, you won't be able to generate that love in order to give to someone else. So it's kind of like, you have to focus on yourself first and building yourself up, being strong and confident within yourself, by yourself. Because what happens is, if we don't establish that strong self-love and self-concept within ourselves, we tend to look to the other person to love us and to make us feel love. But it is the most powerful thing when you are confident within yourself and you love yourself fully, and you know that you choose to love this person. You choose to be with this person, not because you need them to love you in order for you to feel good, but because you feel good already and they're just adding to that love. So yeah, sometimes it can seem like it's being selfish, but in a way, you have to be selfish with in order to allow yourself to have all that love to give.
Can you give an example of self-love practice? Because I know you have been in this spiritual journey, questioning about life purpose and so on. What example, one practice that you do on a daily level, or you have been doing for the audience to understand an example?
Yeah, so I would say, to start off with, if you don't know what it means to exude self-love, what does self-love, what does that even mean? Think about, if you were in a relationship and you had a partner, how would you want that partner to treat you? Would you want that person to tell you that you're beautiful all the time? Would you want that person to surprise you and buy nice things for you, give you flowers, maybe paint a picture or whatever? Everyone has a different love language. But the answer is, the way that you are wanting someone else to love you, that's what you are missing within yourself. So that's a good place to start. So for example, if you want someone who is going to look at you and think you're the most beautiful girl in the world and they're not interested in anyone else, Go in the mirror, look at yourself every morning and tell yourself that you're beautiful. If you want someone who is going to appreciate their time with you, have your own alone time. Take yourself out on a walk, take yourself out on lunch, and just sit with yourself and enjoy the scenery.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I started doing, and I still do, even though I'm in a relationship. I'm someone who growing up, I didn't really care for my looks. I was like, like I'm okay or whatever. Now I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
crazy because when I started saying that about myself, other people outside of me started reflecting that back to me.
Yeah.
And, even though I'm in a relationship, I still take myself out on walks. I still give myself that alone time. So whatever it means for you, self-love, it can be going to the spa and getting massage. It could be giving yourself quiet time to read a nice book. That's the fun thing. Like you get to discover how you want to be loved and know that you're worthy of that love.
Yeah. And I think, a few people that I met say, okay, I understand this concept where I have to do whatever I want to receive and I have to act as if I have it. Okay, I want my boyfriend to bring me to restaurants. I want him to be more romantic. Okay, then I start to do myself all those things. I will go to restaurant with myself. I will do this with myself. But it's so weird. So there is this, this fear of people to look at them.
Yeah.
And it means as well that if you do it, you have to mean it, and you have to do it, not and putting the ego or the fear of judgment, right? So it's also unconditional love that we talked the other day, right? So what would you do? What would you say about this unconditional love as well? Because okay, self-love is good, but it's not about only pretending to self-love. You really need to mean it, and it means as well to really love yourself unconditional, right? So
yeah. So in the beginning, it might feel uncomfortable. Like if you're not used to giving yourself that attention, or you're not used to other people giving yourself that attention. For example, maybe you grew up and your parents weren't very loving. So now saying certain things or loving yourself in a certain way might feel a little awkward. But the great thing is, even if it feels awkward at first, as you continue to show up for yourself that way, especially once you've established and decided, this is how I want to be loved. You get to decide, like I said, how you want to be loved. And once you decide that for yourself, you can just allow yourself to do those practices, and they will become comfortable and they will become normal, because that is your nature, is that unconditional love. And for me, unconditional love, that's exactly what it means. It means showing up for yourself and doing those things for yourself, not caring about what other people think.
exact.
And also not beating up on yourself if you feel uncomfortable, or, not having those thoughts like, oh, this isn't working, I'm not good at this. Like being kind to yourself whenever you do those things, or even if you don't feel comfortable doing it, just always just showing up for yourself, just unconditionally.
Exactly. Yeah. Self-love and unconditional love. It's beautiful. But again, in this society, we have a lot of people who have a lot of limiting belief because of childhood trauma. So we constantly, myself as well, we constantly cope with that. We have coping mechanism. So especially when we try to be perfect, we want to be perfectionists. So we always beat ourselves so that very hard with ourselves. I'm not good enough. So it's unfortunately, as I saw, quite difficult to practice this art of living. For me, it's art of living, practicing unconditional love and love ourselves because of this coping mechanism. Of course, we always heard of ourselves like love yourself first, love yourself first. But when you say, okay, I need to love myself first, don't you think a lot of people will raise this question? Is it opposite of unconditional love? Because if you love yourself, I mean that you put a condition, you must love yourself first. is it not contradictory with unconditional love? If you love yourself too much, is it not a condition?
The way that I look at it is you are choosing, everything is a choice, right? So you're choosing to love yourself unconditionally because you are worthy and deserving of love. And because, like, why wouldn't you love yourself unconditionally? You know, the fact that you exist, there is meaning and reason why you are here. So personally, the way I look at it, when you choose to love yourself first, it's not necessarily putting a condition, like you said, it's just making the choice to be happy. That's just how I look at it. You're choosing to be happy. You're choosing to come from a place of love. And it's understanding that as you radiate love for yourself, you're just going to naturally just radiate it for everyone. So, you know, you don't have to do anything, you know, but it does make it, it's a choice. It's a choice. And for me personally, and again, like, we're all creators of our reality. So whatever resonates with you, you take it, you try it. But for me personally, I've realized the people who really do love and care for themselves first, they have so much more to give, and they have these incredible relationships. So for me, that was kind of my perspective, and that's why I chose to go that route. But like you mentioned, like as a child, a lot of things could happen that takes you off that path. So personally, for me, what I feel like that has helped is, like, for example, when you say like you're not worthy, for example, you could just keep asking yourself, like, okay, like, why do I think I'm not worthy? And then it's like, oh, I've never been worthy. Like, why? Like, who told you you weren't worthy? Like, oh, like maybe my mom told me like I wasn't good enough in school or something. And it's like, well, is that true? Like, you basically just keep asking yourself questions and ask yourself, like, is there truth behind these beliefs that you have? And it can be hard to do, but as you continue to ask yourself why, and is it true? Is it 100% true without a doubt? Can you prove 100% that you're not worthy? The answer is going to be no. There's no way to prove that. So then it's kind of a basis to realize, like you said, sometimes we have these limiting beliefs, but I've even stopped calling them limiting beliefs, you know, because nothing could limit you unless you give your power away to it. And a belief is a thought that you continue to think. So if you have a belief that isn't serving you, you can choose to think different thoughts and continue to think those thoughts and continue to think those thoughts whenever that trauma response comes up or anything that may seem like it's not aligned with your vision. Really allow yourself to feel those emotions, feel whatever you're feeling in your body, be open to it. And then when you feel like you've given yourself that space and that time to feel those emotions, then you can choose a different thought and a different belief. And then that's how you continue to work with it. And then you continue to change and transmute those thoughts.
Yeah, great. Yeah, actually, you replied to my next question already. I just wanted to ask you the challenge that we have to cope with. But yeah, it's about like an onion. So you just peel out all the layer of the onions and you just ask yourself why. And of course, it will somehow it will go through your childhood. So there is always a reason why we are beating ourselves for this, or why we don't feel enough. So it's really to deep dive, continue to question back and deep dive and just eliminate all the doubts until you are yourself.
Yeah, and then you'll also realize that as you ask yourself why, like, for example, like if your parents were the ones who made you feel that way, you get to a point where you realize they're only doing that because that's all that they know. Maybe your grandparents were that way with your parents. And so they're just running off of a program, and they might not even want to or have wanted to do those things to you or treat you that way, but that's all that they knew because that was what was normal for them. But now that you're conscious of the fact that you create your reality, you get to break the cycle for your whole entire generation because you get to make a different choice. And that's a very powerful place to come from. And it's not making excuses for people for why they do the things that you do. But then when you get on your spiritual journey, you realize that certain people just may be a little off of their path. They might not know all these things that you are now learning. And so, yeah, it transforms the relationships, even with the people who may have traumatized you in the past.
Yeah, fully agree. What would you say to people who are single? Because now and I'm living in Hong Kong, where it's always moving and dynamic, and it's always on the go. Also in the other big city, I believe. So those young and successful women who are single and who are very independent, still seeking for a partner of life, what would you tell them? And then why I have everything for myself, but I'm still single? What is happening? And of course, I love myself, but unconditional love, it's a little bit scary because, right, they are independent, and why should I compromise for a guy? Why should I? So yeah, so it's a little bit scary when you talk about unconditional love and so on, but they have everything for themselves. So what advice would you give to them, to this woman?
Yeah. So my advice would be, like, if you're someone who's very confident, like you said, very independent, you have the self-love, you have the self-care, ask yourself, are you open to love? Because there are some people who have all of that. They love themselves, they love their lives, they're doing great in their career. All of these things are amazing, and they want love, but are you open for love? Are you open to love? Because one of the things that you even mentioned is, they might think like, oh, why do I have to compromise? But it's like, well, why do you have to what if you don't have to compromise? Like, why do you even think that you have to compromise? And I understand, like, with unconditional love, it's kind of like the energy of just obviously like loving no matter what. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put up with things that you don't agree with, for example. So just because, everyone talks about unconditional love, it doesn't mean like if you're in an abusive relationship, just continue to be abused because you have to love unconditionally. So it's kind of the energy of like being open and accepting and ready to receive love and give that love to others. And it's like, you can have love for someone and respect their existence, but that doesn't mean you have to be with them and get married to them.
Exactly.
Kids. So that's where, for me, unconditional love comes from. And when you give yourself that unconditional love first, you'll establish your boundaries. So then those types of people can't even come into your life. So for those people, those women and those men that are just confident, they have everything going for themselves. Again, ask yourself, are you open to love? Because sometimes when you are being so successful, like you mentioned, in other areas of your life, you have your routine and everything fits perfectly. So it's like, how is someone else going to come? Now I have to deal with someone else's messes, what they want to eat for dinner. And it's like, a lot of the time it's like those little things like that. And it makes us kind of scared because we're in our comfort zone with ourselves. So it's just, once you know that you have all this love to give and you're the creator of your reality, you get to create the relationship that you want. You can focus on those attributes and be open and ready to receive that love. And, you don't have to compromise like, oh, I have to give up my whole business in order to be with this person, or, just being open and being very strong and confident in what you want, knowing that you can have it all without having to compromise.
Yeah, this is a good point. It's all about within first, because it's true that before accepting someone into your life, you need to be sure about what you want. Do you want the love? So in another word, I would say, to summarize your statement, is more determine yourself what is love for you, what do you want to accept, and what are your boundaries, right?
Yes. That's why I want to make a little clarification. Like, there's always going to be compromise, right? Like, you're not going to clone yourself, and then just put whatever you want, like, in a person. You're going to find that person. But yes, there is going to be compromise, like normal compromise. Like my boyfriend snores and it's annoying. And sometimes I just want to strangle him, but I don't. That's compromise. It's compromise if I just stay and try to go back to sleep instead of like leaving to sleep somewhere else, for example, or strangling him in his sleep. Uh, but like there's going to be compromise. But what I mean is you don't have to completely give up who you are in order to be with someone. And that goes for anything that you're trying to create or manifest for yourself. Just really being confident in what you want and just being open to receive love. And if you reach a point where you do want to make those big compromises, you're going to do it because you want to, not because you feel like you have to in order to get love. And it kind of goes back to the beginning, because if you truly want to do something and someone tells you, well, in order for you to be with me, you're going to have to give all this up, then for you, if you have that strong love within yourself, you're not looking for it outside. So you won't feel like you have to completely recreate yourself in order to be with someone, because you're not gonna, their love is going to add to who you are. It's not going to be, you know, the only love in your life or the reason why you exist type of, you know, crazy romantic, like, oh, I can't live without you. And it's like, you want to be able to live without them, you know? You want them to add to your life. You don't want them to be the reason why you're alive, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, no, it makes sense. So before you met your future spouse, your boyfriend, were you applying all this before, or it just came recently? I mean, recently, this is how you manifest your boyfriend, right? Your future spouse.
Yeah, it's crazy because I did not know about, I mean, we're always conscious, we're always manifesting, right? I wasn't consciously aware of manifestation, law of attraction, law of assumption, spirituality at all when I met him. And it's crazy because I remember even before I knew about law of attraction, like I said, for some reason, I went to the beach one day and it was right before I graduated, and I wrote a little letter to God. And I wasn't scripting. I wasn't doing it as a technique. And I just wrote all of the things I was looking forward to in my career, because I was about to graduate university, and then all the things I was looking forward to in a boyfriend. And it's crazy because my boyfriend has all those attributes, but I still had some like limiting things that for example, I really just didn't like about like smoking, for example. Like I didn't really like people smoking and all that stuff. And it's funny because my boyfriend smokes sometimes. And so after learning about manifestations, and we have different like attitudes and temperaments, he's not really into the spiritual stuff, although slowly I see him coming along with me.
With you,
But at first I thought that I had to like kind of force it on him, or I was worried we wouldn't even be able to survive a relationship because we were so different and all of these things. And I was trying to change him, which never works. You can never change. You have to change someone. You have to change yourself and how you perceive them. So with the certain things that he did that I didn't really like, I started to kind of see it differently and that's where that unconditional love comes in. You know, for me, it was little things like smoking and stuff like that. I started seeing them differently. I realized, like, for example, if you're like addicted to something, most of the time you have things that you're trying to cover up, you know?
Yeah.
And I know he had some things during childhood. I'm like, okay, that's his coping mechanism. So instead of focusing on the fact like, oh my God, he's smoking, I don't like it, I started focusing on seeing who he could be if he didn't have like that trauma that he's trying to cover up. He doesn't like to smoke. He feels like he has to. It helps him release stress. So I started to just see him as someone who was less stressed. And it's funny because as I started changing the way I saw him and focusing more on the good in our relationship instead of the bad, he just stopped. He slowly is stopping now all by himself. Before, when I was like, oh, this is so bad, cancer, you're gonna die, like it stinks, I hate it, blah, 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 blah. Like he got it and he loves me, so he would try. But, you know, it's still not getting to the root of the problem, which, you know, he has things, this is how he copes with it. So this is what he's gonna turn to. So as I started seeing him as like a happier person and him releasing those type of issues, seeing him as someone who's releasing those types of things, he started transforming. So now he does it less. So even if you're someone who is manifesting someone, or if you are currently in a relationship, it doesn't matter. From any point that you're at right now, you can transform it.
Okay. It's
and
all
I would,
about...
yes, the work starts with you first, and really getting clear with yourself, like what is it that you want, and why do you want those things? Sometimes certain things that you think you want, you may not even want them. Maybe you think you want something because you see someone else want it, or it's because you didn't get it as a child. But then when you shed light on those things, you realize, like, okay, so that's just a small part of me. You give yourself that love, you integrate it, and then you can release it. So yeah, so just realizing that it's always, even if I were to manifest him, and like I did everything and I manifested him from my intentions and scripting and all of that, it's never done. Like, you're gonna have to continue to work on yourself and how you see yourself and other people in your life.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Carlie. It's a very, very nice sharing here. And to conclude, I would say that, yeah, relationship is not an easy thing. It's really about how it is a self-concept, how you perceive yourself first, how you love yourself first, through unconditional love. It doesn't mean that you are blindly loving without condition. No, it's not like that. Yeah. So of course there is challenge, and it's all about how your mind perceive the things in a way that you see the thing in a more positive way, as a whole package. Whatever is negative, then it's not to focus on that, but maybe to step back a little bit and then to see the whole picture in a positive way, what is serving to you, and then focus on the good things. And somehow things will just transform. The relationship itself will transform. I think, yeah, I think that would be a summary. I don't know if you want to add something else to conclude.
Yeah. And just to add to that, like, even when you say, like, you know, like the negative thoughts and everything, or the negative things that happen, everything that happens in life is just feedback. So not even seeing it like, oh, my manifestation's not working, like this is what's happened, this is the opposite of what I wanted, or oh, this is negative, this is a bad thing. No, like, see it all as feedback, because things are always working out for you. When you have the mentality that things are always working out for you, there is no good, there is no bad, like everything just is. And you allow yourself to, like you said, focus on the things that you want to manifest. But when those things show up that aren't in alignment with your vision, realizing that it's just feedback. Say it, like give it that love, say thank you. Now I can focus on what I do want. You know, and, you know, don't like shove things away or ignore things, because when you ignore things, if they're there, they're going to keep coming up. So, and that's also part of the unconditional love, being open with yourself when those moments do happen and not beating yourself up over them.
Great. Thanks so much for this post cafe. It's amazing, this feedback. So yeah, life Earth is a place, like a school for us to practice. So we are here just to practice self-love and unconditional love. Carlie, thank you so much. I would love to see you again in a second episode for manifestation, maybe some other topic. And for now, let's finally finish our coffee here, and we can say, I will say good night to you, and me, I'm gonna start my walk already.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. And thanks for your time again, and appreciate all those feedbacks. And I will say to everyone, see you in the next episode, and we can cheers, Carlie.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.